6 p.m. in Basel in the west region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. A woman is currently behind bars for beating her 4-year-old niece to near death in the Equinoxe neighborhood in Douala. The little girl was discovered with fresh wounds on her body, and at the time of the discovery, the child's aunt said, with whom the Abigail was living, said she had lost 2 of her children. In this newscast, we'll explain to you how the life of the little girl was saved by her own nanny. Away from that, we'll talk something else: bribery and corruption, the cankerworm that continues to spread in almost all sectors in Cameroon. The National Anti-Corruption Commission, CONAC, says the state has lost about 114 billion francs CFA to corrupt practices in 2023. The report was presented by CONAC's president, Dieudonné Masiga. So you have details and more in this edition of the news. Stay with us. Once more, good evening, and thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe television. 4 suspected document forgers have been arrested by gendarmes in Yaoundé. They were caught right-handed producing fake documents like identification cards, receipts, diplomas, birth certificates, and many other fake administrative stamps. The operation also led to the seizure of electronic gadgets used for the act. We have details with Innocent Aze.
Desktop computers, printers, and administrative stamps are the items seized from 4 suspected document forgers by gendarmes in Yaoundé Central Region. A team carried out the operation at Avenue de Banque and Poste Centrale. We caught 4 suspects right-handed, usually producing fake ID card receipts, driver's license, birth certificates, diplomas, bills, and other documents. They were in possession of fake stamps of ministers and other directors generals.
Des fausses quittances, bien évidemment, des faux cachets des ministres et certains directeurs généraux.
Security officials note that the suspects are professional forgers. Fraudulent documents produced look authentic. You must be an expert before really knowing what they issue you is a fake document. They have all the necessary materials to produce the documents as if they were authentic. We carefully examined before detecting they were fake documents. Investigation is on to identify and dismantle similar networks operating underground in the capital city. The booty gotten will be put at the disposal of the state prosecutor alongside the 4 suspects who will answer to their act. Faced with this recurrent phenomenon, we demand the population to be very careful and also to work in collaboration with defense and security forces and to provide us with hints that we need. Recently, over 1,000 fake certificates were detected and discarded by the Ministry of Defense as their owners tried using them to integrate themselves into the different military corps. This most recent case puts a question mark on the security of administrative documents in the Republic of Cameroon.
And now to our major lead story, we take you to the Equinoxe neighborhood right here in the city of Douala, where a 4-year-old girl was brutally molested by her aunt. The little girl, Abigail, was found with fresh wounds on her neck and legs. Witnesses say all the wounds were inflicted by the aunt who lost her 2 children. And Abilaleke was at the Equinoxe and now tells us that the little girl's life was saved thanks to the intervention of her nanny. Her report.
4-year-old Abigail got her life saved. 4-year-old Abigail got her life saved with the intervention of her nanny. The little girl has been constantly been molested brutally by her supposed aunt at the Equinoxe neighborhood of Douala.
Effectivement, on a constaté que l'enfant avait des bleus partout, avec des brûlures de couteaux et de fer à repasser.
Fresh wounds could be found all over her body, all inflicted by her guardian, reportedly with hot irons and hot knives. Neighbors explained that other nannies could not bear what they saw and had to drop their job. The third nanny, a 20-year-old girl, decided to film Abigail and showed the wounds to her own parents. They in turn alerted the neighborhood and got the forces of law and order involved. Other occupants of the building add that they could never suspect the said aunt of such a brutal act, considering that she seemed a nice human being from afar. They say she might also have been sealing the little girl's mouth while inflicting the pains on her.
On n'a pas suivi ce cri de guerre-là, ce cri de détresse de l'enfant. Donc nous on s'est dit, moi particulièrement, je me suis dit que peut-être quand elle infligeait ces douleurs à l'enfant, elle bouchait sa bouche.
Neighbors we met at Equinoxe said the perpetrator had lost her 2 children and could be depressive. It was after the loss of her own kids that she decided to take her late cousin's 4-year-old baby to stay with.
Les maltraitances faites aux enfants.
According to legal minds, such brutal acts on minors are severely punished by the law. The perpetrator can be jailed from 5 to 10 years minimum. Barrister Aurelie Betanga says in the case of severe wounds inflicted on a minor, the sanction might even be heavier on the perpetrator. The victim, 4-year-old Abigail, is now receiving medical attention at the Deplorable District Hospital in Douala. She is responding to treatment according to medics and is being taken care of at the hospital by the nanny who alerted the population to save Abigail's life. The perpetrator was arrested and she is in the hands of security forces and investigations continue.
What a pathetic story indeed. After several failed initiatives to identify, clean and professionalize the commercial motorcycle sector in Cameroon, municipal authorities of the city of Douala meet again with another attempt. The new attempt from the city council consists of professionalizing bike riders, formalize the sector, and identify riders across the city. The city council says 3,000 commercial motorcycle riders across the city have been identified out of the target of 25,000. Details with Fomi Armstrong Sander.
The intention and the fight to put order in the commercial motorcycle sector in Cameroon has been for over 16 years. In fact, it was on December 31st, 2008 that the Prime Minister, head of government, announced the intention of the government to organize the sector. Many years later, counts of initiatives announced to this effect have failed, leaving disorder in all aspects in the sector. The exact number of commercial motorbike riders in the city of Douala, for example, is unknown, with municipal and administrative officials advancing diverging figures between 25 to 50,000. Above this, the sector is infiltrated by adventurers, bandits, criminals, and people of doubtful morality, as demonstrated by cases of robbery, banditry, and aggressions implicating the bike riding sector. In a bid to recognize and clean this sector, the Douala City Council introduced a twofold project comprising the training and award of driving licenses to commercial motorbike riders and the subsequent identification of bike riders across the city. A huge project, however, buried in uncertainties and flaws, according to bike riders.
Because they told us that we should pay some money, 35,000, I don't know. The first day that we register, they tell us 5,000 francs. They give all that ticket. They told me that I should come here and take a Swazi. That's what I want to know, whether we will pay all that money or we will not pay. That's what I want to know.
That is not all.
Est-ce que vraiment on serait respecté partout où on ira? Parce que dans ce secteur, nous avions beaucoup.
Bike riders say their opinions and challenges are not being taken into consideration, making things difficult than easy for them. Outlining extortion from council workers, aggressions from council agents and their passengers, bike riders in the city of Douala say they are endangered and forgotten. The ceremony in the city of Douala saw the handing over of individual jackets to identified bike riders from the Douala 1 to the Douala 5 subdivisions. The city council says some 3,000 riders have been duly identified out of over 25,000 targeted.
And in a similar story, commercial motorcycle riders in Limbe, one subdivision, have been urged to get their complete identification documents in order not to have issues with security agents. The call was made by the Mayor of Limbe 1 Council, Eposi Florence Boye, during a sensitization meeting with the commercial motorcycle riders in her area of command. The Mayor also requested that the bike riders should not overload. We have details with Smarty Kangebro.
Some days ago, Busumbu neighborhood in Limbe 1 subdivision came under the alert after it was alleged that a commercial motorcycle rider was taken away by separatist fighters, posing an aspect of insecurity in Limbe 1 subdivision. And coupled with the steady return of pupils and students to school, the mayor of Limbe 1 gathered bike riders to advise them on how to carry out their activities in the midst of the crisis.
Let all of us, if we want peace to continue to reign in our municipality, then it's the bike riders. If there is no peace in Limbe 1 municipality, it's the bike rider. If there is peace in Limbe 1, it's the bike riders. We are here to see how we can carry on this 2024-2025 academic year.
The gathering was an opportunity for the commercial motorcycle riders in Limbe 1 to speak out their minds on issues disturbing in their sector. We have more than 7 groups of trade union in Limbe, which makes things difficult, and sometimes these leaders fight among themselves. A council officer should be friendly with us rather than being harsh. The gathering served as an avenue where the bike riders were also given instructions about the number of passengers they could carry at once and the need for them to do their documents. I found this meeting necessary, and I have asked the bike riders to put an identification jacket. They should also have the documents, and they shouldn't carry more than 2. After the sensitization meeting, inhabitants of Limbe 1 municipality are hoping to see a different set of riders in their locality.
Smart Jikan Gabriel reporting there. For the past 5 years, the section of the road leading to Carrefour Musiques in the Douala 4 subdivision has been a threat to road users. The Deplorable stretch, made up of craters, has not only caused traffic jams but a series of accidents. Those who ply the stretch connecting other regions exercise a lot of patience and courage. Our reporter A.C. Lucy Liengo represents us the poor state of the road in this report.
The poor state of roads in the Douala 4 subdivision has rendered circulation difficult for road users. Moving from Ron Point to Bekoko is a tedious journey for road users.
It's very difficult. We are struggling and spending everything we have on fuel. So actually things are not moving.
At Carrefour Musiques, a section of the stretch is made up of potholes. The dilapidated road is now a trap where vehicles, bikes fall with their goods and passengers.
Bon, moi personnellement, j'ai eu à faire un accident, c'était samedi passé, j'ai encore les blessures là.
As a result of this, commuters spend hours on the same spot in traffic.
2 hours from Douala to Ron Point, 2 hours. How much can you live work? How much can you pay? How can you even pay your taxes with this type of a road, man?
Même chose quand tu voyages quittant du sud-ouest ou bien de l'ouest. Tu dois attendre à échanger là-bas juste pour arriver au rail.
According to some road users, the traffic at Carrefour Musiques began after the second bridge over River Wuri was constructed.
Like for that old roadway,
they suggest the old road behind Ministère de Soya be used meantime to reduce congestion.
I don't know how the government feels about that road.
Faced with this devastating condition for over 5 years, road users plead with authorities to help rehabilitate the stretch so as to save lives.
Now we talk something else. The National Anti-Corruption Commission is stepping up the fight against the ill despite the upward trend it has taken in the past years. In its 2023 situation report, it says the population involvement strategies helping the fight. However, the corruption curve keeps rising. What explains this paradox? Babla Jonathan put this question to a legal mind and now reports.
Corruption has continued taking an upward trend in Cameroon over the years. The 2023 report of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, the NAC, reveals a sharp increase in the number of corruption cases reported to the institution. 7,548 against 7,068 in 2023.
Le détournement des frais des associations des parents d'élèves.
The NAC says the ill is rife in the education and security sectors of national life.
It is rampant in Cameroon. It is being seen, it is being touched. We live with it every day in Cameroon.
Public opinion holds that government's anti-corruption measures and actions are inefficient. Critics attribute this to lack of political will.
The constitution says that you declare your assets before you take over power. That section of the constitution has never been applied. So people just believe that all what I say about corruption is a theater.
Concerning why institutions created to fight corruption, like the National Anti-Corruption Commission, are not succeeding in bringing down the corruption curve, Barrister Ango thinks it is an issue of moral and ethical competence.
If the right people are not in the right position, I don't think that the battle against corruption will advance anywhere.
On one of the most recent corruption scandals, the Glencoe affair, involving some unnamed Cameroonian officials, the National Anti-Corruption Commission says it has not been included in its report because investigations are still ongoing.
Now to politics. The national president of the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation, Honorable Cabral Limbe, says he remains determined to be the next president of Cameroon. Speaking to David Sengmon, he reiterated his call for a coalition of at least 4 major political parties to guarantee victory in the 2025 presidential election. He also called for more dialogue to end the Anglophone crisis and solve the Anglophone problem. Babla Jonathan once more reports.
Je rêve toujours d'être élu président de la République du Cameroun.
He is still dreaming of being the president of the Republic of Cameroon. Cabral Limbe will seek Cameroonians' votes in 2025 if he is chosen as the flag bearer of the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation, which he leads as national president.
Est-ce que vous serez prêt à vous unir avec Maurice Kamto, par exemple?
Ask if he is ready to unite with Professor Maurice Kamto, national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement (CRM) political party, to beat the candidate of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM. He says,
La coalition aujourd'hui est une attente pressante du peuple camerounais.
Cameroonians highly expect a coalition that should bring together 3 to 4 main parties.
La coalition qu'on attend en réalité concerne 2, 3, voire 4 leaders politiques. Je reste convaincu, et je ne suis pas le seul.
He remains persuaded that it is a better option to guarantee victory for the opposition.
Premièrement, qu'on puisse véritablement se mettre ensemble derrière un projet.
To him, the first step is to unite to support a single political program that should emerge from consultations.
Est-ce que ce scrutin n'est pas joué d'avance?
Non, mais absolument pas.
He dismisses the idea that with rigging and fraud, the winner is known ahead of time.
Le scrutin n'est pas joué d'avance.
In the hope for change at the helm of the state, Cabral Limbe has urged all Cameroonians of voting age to vote massively when the time comes and to meticulously follow up the electoral process, especially the vote counting part.
Surveiller le vote pour faire barrage à la sophistication de la fraude.
About the Anglophone crisis,
que l'on continue à dialoguer et à se parler.
Cabral Limbe calls for more dialogue that should culminate in peace deals to end the conflict.
La bordélisation de l'État. Peut-être cela est-il lié à la longévité excessive.
He attributes undemocratic practices, persecution of opposition politicians and right defenders, and other human rights violations to the fact that the current head of state, Paul Biya, has been in power for more than 4 decades.
Une telle longévité a forcément consacré une forme de dérive. Il y a donc des gens qui se...
Babla Jonathan reporting there. People lawyers who recently swore the oath of service in Kumba have been warned to shun bad practices which could serve as a hindrance to the progress of their careers. They were given the advice by the president of the Cameroon Bar Council, Barrister Mba Eric Ba, at the High Court in Kumba on Thursday. Smajikan Gabriel was there and now reports.
With 40 advocates in training who took the oath at the High Court in Kumba in the presence of some executive members of the Cameroon Bar Council and the senior administrative officer of Meme Division, Ntundong Shambalen, the people lawyers who are now members of the bar in Cameroon, though without a voting power, for now, we're cautioned.
I want to advise to my younger colleagues to respect the ethics and the ontology, to work very hard. The common law lawyer, they have more opportunities than we coming from the civil jurisdiction, because first thing is that the English is the work language in the world.
The bar was quick to caution them not to run after money. Let the impact of their entry into the bar be felt by the common man in the society. Let us not rather hear more cries from the population that they are being extorted, they are being maltreated, but let the population feel more that at each time that they have a legal issue, the lawyers are there to defend them.
With the taking of the oath ceremony now history, the advocates in training will have a 2 years practical experience at a law firm under a senior barrister before sitting in for another exam as the law stipulates.
The law requires them to go through training for 2 years. I am just the message bearer from the Bar Council, enjoining them to be very, very humble, because there is a temptation for young people like them, because we wear the same lip and down, to start carrying their shoulders and thinking that they are lawyers, start running after money and forget the fact that they have a very, very intense training to undergo for 2 years, which will end up with an exam.
It's important to state that it is only after another exam at the end of the 2 years practical experience that successful advocates in training will get the title of a barrister.
An inhaled cataract in children is considered as a significant health problem in Cameroon. Pediatric cataract can lead to serious visual impairment and affect a child's development, education, and quality of life. To address this problem, stakeholders and ophthalmologists from the Presbyterian Pediatric Eye Hospital met in the Southwest region to discuss the way out. Lesia Lucilengu is a lady on that story.
Cataracts are estimated to be present in approximately 1 to 15 per 10,000 children worldwide, accounting for 5% to 20% of childhood blindness. Ophthalmologists say pediatric cataract is a significant public health concern in the country.
The key issue here is the high prevalence of cataracts amongst children. We have noticed that a lot of children who present with cataracts, it is only discovered at a later stage in their life, and this poses a serious challenge when it comes to its treatment.
When there's a cataract, there's an obstacle on the path of the light, so the child cannot see well. Usually it is an intrauterine infection, that is when the children are still in the womb of their mother, they can get infected with rubella virus or cytomegalovirus or by syphilis.
Eye specialists advise an early diagnosis.
And even when they start going to school, I mean, the teachers should be very helpful to identify those children who don't see well in class. And the earlier we detect those children, the better, so that we can attend to them. If it is an issue of cataract, they need to be operated early enough.
Combating the disease in children from the age of 3 to 18 in the Southwest region is the objective of a meeting grouping of ophthalmologists from the Presbyterian Pediatric Eye Hospital. In order to attain this, a project has been launched.
The first thing that we have done, which we have just done now, is to engage all our stakeholders in the project to ensure that they are involved in all activities of its implementation. We are going to take a grassroots approach by ensuring that the communities are involved. We are going to be doing a lot of mass screening in the community. We target more than 50,000 children. Those whom we can identify as possible cases, we are definitely going to refer them back to the hospital for further medical interventions to take place.
The project will run from now till December 2026.
That's it for this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight is a legal mind. He's known as Barrister Jacob Ango, and we'll be discussing about the rising trend of corruption in Cameroon. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight. I'd like to know from you, what is corruption?
Active corruption and passive corruption. Corruption simply means that somebody makes a favor in order to induce somebody not to do what he ought to have done. That is the person proposing the corruption. Then the passive corruption is the person who participates, that is the receiver who participates in receiving the corruption in order not to do what he ought to have done. Take for example, somebody brings a chunk of money to X that instead of this amount of money to be paid in the state treasury, you should pay less and give me this favor. Take for example, it may be taking my car out of the port without paying the necessary due consideration as custom duty. That's corrupt.
Barrister, what's your understanding of the increasing rate of corruption in Cameroon at the moment?
Corruption is all over, but it can be controlled. But it is rampant in Cameroon. It is being seen, it is being touched. We live with it every day in Cameroon. Part of the reason I believe that corruption is so rampant in Cameroon is poverty. But there are some people who are so addicted that like corruption is in their DNA. Because you will not imagine somebody will be embezzling billions. You cannot say that that's poverty. It's because corruption is part of the person. And corruption is almost becoming like a style of life in Cameroon. That okay, it's a matter of opportunity. No matter those who claim that they're sane or they're not corrupt, give them the opportunity. That way you can know whether they're corrupt or not.
From what you are saying, we could conclude that corruption is more of a moral problem in Cameroon. Is that it?
Sure, because you realize that most of the poor people, they don't even steal. But your question is that if it's not a matter of mentality, how do you imagine that somebody will embezzle 50-something billion, assuming that it's not even working? Can you eat that amount of money, even if you have great-grandchildren, will they eat all that amount of money? So it's part of this. It's a tradition that has grown up in Cameroon and still has not been eradicated at the early stage. It has now become a style of life. And everybody is only waiting the least opportunity to do his own part. We believe that, okay, when you steal, okay, you can go next time. When my own time will come, I'll also steal. And the action really taken to curb corruption, they are not really being seen visibly. The effects are not even really actually impacting the population, or the average man see actually what has been done to curb down corruption. So that is why it's almost becoming a style of life.
What explains the inefficiency of government measures in fighting corruption? Because from what we are seeing on the ground, it's not bearing the desired fruits. Let's say, for example, Operation Sparrowhawk, which has been existing for a while now.
The general public believe that government has not even taken adequate measures to curb corruption. Take into consideration that you declare your assets before you take over power. That section of the Constitution has never been applied. So people don't believe that all what I say about corruption is a theater. Cameroon not instituted what in America we call the whistleblower. That if you see something that's going wrong, you should call the attention of the state. They can even compensate you, they hide your identity. So that a lot of people know a lot of information about how money is being embezzled or how corruption is being done. But you're surprised that you go and report, they call that very person, the X has reported you for corruption. So people are like, okay, why should I take my life or take the risk for which I will even be punished? So that is why the impact of corruption or all the battle being set against corruption, nothing is actually changing in society. However, Cameroon has still to hear how much have been recovered. And generally want to fight corruption is that, okay, prove that this amount of money has been recovered. Do something that let people should see that, no, out of the money that was misappropriated, we have recovered this amount of money. Look at what we have done. It may be build primary schools, it may be dig a road, and on that road we name it the war against corruption. So that people should see the visible action. But however, I encourage that they should be whistleblowers. Government should make a code wherein you can report your identity is hidden. It is proven that, okay, actually, what you have reported is true, people will contribute, and even you can even motivate the people and give them some incentive for doing that.
Barrister Ango Jacob Ango, thank you so much for your time. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always staying with us. Coming up in some few minutes will be the program Equinoxe with Serge Alain Otu. Stay with us for more interesting programs. Bye-bye for now. Have a lovely weekend.